Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. 5 Steelers with the most to prove in 2024. Generally, an aging team is full of proven veterans who don't need to convince fans and coaches of their value. However, there are some outliers for the Steelers this upcoming season. And it's not just players that need to improve, considering Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. But in this exercise, I'll give head coach Mike Tomlin a pass, focusing specifically on players who need to quiet the doubters. This is the guy I went back and forth on being on this list because, in an ideal world, he doesn't even see the field, at least as the starting quarterback. However, given the way the former first-round pick was ousted in Chicago, he must check some major boxes in Pittsburgh this year. Can he put together a great preseason? Will he have packages in the offense designed to feature his legs? And if so, can he control his turnover issues? Projected starting QB Russell Wilson has been durable throughout his career, but there's a good chance Fields will need to step in at some point this season in a big spot. Freiermuth became just the 10th tight end in NFL history to reach 100 career receptions in 25 games or less, which is a pretty eye-opening stat, right? With that type of accolade, you'd think he'd be considered a top tight end in the league. But after posting 60 and 63 receptions, respectively, in his first 2 seasons, he only hauled in 32 passes for 308 yards last year. Much of that can be attributed to poor quarterback play, as well as missing 5 games with injury, but it feels like a lot of the hype flames for Freiermuth have all been blown out. In an offense led by new coordinator Arthur Smith that heavily featured the tight end position throughout his career, it's time for Freiermuth to have a career year. We all know Pickens is very good, he doesn't need to prove that. But can he take the next step and be great? Now that Deontay Johnson is out of the fold, most of the passing game weight has been transferred to Pickens' shoulders. In 2022, he had 52 receptions for 803 yards and 4 touchdowns. Last season, he hauled in 63 passes for 1,140 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's ascending, but is he ready to enter the elite-level tier of pass catchers in this league? For that to happen, those numbers need to jump to roughly 80 catches and close to 10 scores. Especially considering the current state of the depleted wide receiver room. Let's not mince words, Hayward is one of the best Steelers defensive players of all time. But he's entering the final season of a 4-year, $65 million contract at age 35. There should not be any free handouts in this league, regardless of your status in the franchise's lore. Even at age 34, he had a great season last year when he was on the field. On sports, yet another veteran WR tied to Steelers, Paul Skeens pledges money for KS. From trades for Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel or Courtland Sutton to signings of Tyler Boyd or Zay Jones or Michael Gallup, there have been no shortage of veteran wide receivers projected to end up with the WR-needy Pittsburgh Steelers over the past 2 months. A prominent ESPN analyst has broached another. A Bill Barnwell piece published Tuesday intended to play matchmaker between 10 veteran players who are in one way or another looking for new homes or in need of one to teams that could use a player at that particular one's position or skill set. His choice for former first-round pick Treylon Burks was the Steelers. Burks was drafted 2 selections before Kenny Pickett just 25 months ago. At the time of his selection, Burks was highly intriguing to NFL teams because of his 6'3", 225-pound size and his college production in the SEC. However, Burks had more catches, 66, receiving yards, 1,104, and touchdowns, 12, in 12 games during his final season at Arkansas, as he's had over 22 games in 2 seasons, 49-665-1, in the NFL. That, in part, has led to speculation the Tennessee Titans are eager to move on. Enter the Steelers, who we all know have a WR core of George Pickens, a third-round rookie, and a bunch of number 4s and 5s. It's believed the cost to acquire Burks wouldn't be significant, think, low-round pick, and that the Titans might even eat some of the salary he's owed for 2024 to 25. Writes Barnwell, after trading away Deontay Johnson this offseason, the Steelers have an opening on the outside. They used a third-round pick on Roman Wilson, who might profile best as a slot receiver earlier in his career, while former Rams wideout Van Jefferson hasn't been productive in much better offenses as a pro. If the Titans are willing to eat $6 million of what's left on Burks' deal, I could see the logic in Pittsburgh sending a 2026 sixth-round pick to Tennessee to give him a fresh start. Pirates fans aren't the only ones who have been eagerly anticipating Paul Skeens' strikeouts. So are military veterans, first responders, and those who wish to honor and serve them. Quietly as per his persona, Skeens pledged to donate $100 per each of his strikeouts this MLB season to the Gary Sinise Foundation. The organization's website describes its mission as serving our nation by honoring our defenders, veterans, first responders, their families, and those in need. We do this by creating and supporting unique programs designed to entertain, educate, inspire, strengthen, and build communities. Skeens' planned donations were publicized Tuesday on The Pat McAfee Show. Skeens told McAfee that during his final college season at LSU he pledged $10 per strikeout to another military-related charity, Folds of Honor. Broncos reporter, Courtland Sutton, could be trade candidate. Broncos reporter, Courtland Sutton, could be trade candidate. The Pittsburgh Steelers will more than likely add another wide receiver at some point in the months leading up to the 2024 season. Their unit has a bunch of competition for depth and rotational players, but they are lacking an outside option opposite George Pickens. The options on the free agent market have dwindled to the point where none of them will really upgrade the roster, so it is likely that an addition would come via trade or off the scrap heap once roster cutdowns occur in September. One logical option could be Denver Broncos Wr. Courtland Sutton. They are in the middle of a rebuild, with very little hope of competing this year. Sutton caught passes from Russell Wilson for the last 2 seasons, and Zach Gazani, the WR's coach in Pittsburgh, worked with Sutton in Denver for the first 5 seasons of his career. A lot of dots can be connected to Sutton as a possible trade candidate. He also held out of the first voluntary workouts and reportedly requested a new contract, which is a pressure point that could play into a possible trade scenario. One of the main reasons why it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the Broncos is they already traded away Wr. Jerry Jeudy. Trading Sutton would leave them in a tough spot at receiver. But that appears to be less of a concern after the Broncos drafted 2 receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft and added another in free agency. The Broncos' receiving core is looking much better than it did when Jeudy was traded, Chris Tomasson wrote via the Denver Gazette. The Broncos later in March signed free agent Josh Reynolds, and in last month's draft, they selected Oregon's Troy Franklin in the 4th round and Utah's Devon Vele in the 7th. Franklin and Vele were on display over the weekend at the Broncos' rookie minicamp, and both looked good catching balls from rookie quarterback Bo Nix. Vele, in particular, seems to be making a solid impression beyond what was expected of a 7th-round pick. Sean Payton had some nice things to say about him. He has good instincts, and he has really, really good ball skills, Payton said via Tomasson's article. He's looked better than I even thought for a guy his height. Vele stands at 6'4", 203 pounds, with 33.5-inch arms. That is a very similar stature to Courtland Sutton. In the middle of a rebuild, the Broncos feeling good about some of their young receivers would go a long way toward pulling the trigger on a Sutton trade. It would help them clear some cap space both in the immediate term and for the future. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Courtland Sutton? Leave your opinion in the comments.